Well, hello there guys, welcome back to my voice acting playthrough of the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. We are continuing on Case 4 of the second game, Phoenix Wright Justice for All. This is Farewell My Turnabout, where we have Edgeworth now taking the stand instead of Franziska von Karma. We've learned that she has been shot prior to this case. Edgeworth's now taking her place. We resume the fabled rivalry between Phoenix and Edgeworth. Now, we've learned some new facts about the case, new clues. We have Adrian Andrews, who is our prime suspect about to take the stand. And she's been caught by Edgeworth. There's something in the works here that's about to happen. Let's see how this episode carries on. Dude, I can't believe that, Adrian. No way. Not cool and collected. Adrian Andrews? She is your manager. It would have been very easy for her to pull this off. The only person who had easy access to the knife you used at dinner was, well, her. So after the ceremony, during the break, huh? I was sleeping like a log the entire time. See, she could have also easily planted that blood-covered button in your Hakama. Because she was the one that came to wake me up? Then, dude, you're saying it really was her? Yes, she is the real killer. She was the one who murdered Juan Carita. But why? I thought she was buds with Juan. She has her own agenda. Her own agenda? What are you talking about? I'm sure you'll see by the time this trial's over. It'll be alright. I'll get you acquitted by the end of today. Give me a verdict that's refreshing like a spring breeze, okay, Mr. Lawyer Dude? Phoenix, do you think her motive is related to Celeste Impact's missing suicide note, right? Yeah. Miss Andrews depended on Miss Impact as her strength and reason to live. But then Miss Impact suddenly killed herself. It sounds like she left a suicide note, and the person thought to have hidden it is Juan Carita, the victim of this murder. And that's why I think that Miss Andrews got close to Mr. Carita. All to get the suicide note back! That sounds plausible. But one thing bothers me. What? Who was it that first told us about their relationship? Better stated, Miss Andrews' dependency issues with regards to Miss Impact's? It was Edgeworth. It looks like he's still the one in command of this ship. Don't let your guard down yet.
Court will now reconvene. Now then, Mr. Edgeworth, if you please.
The prosecution calls the witness subpoenaed by this court. Miss Adrian Andrews, the person who discovered the crime in Mr. Juan Carita's room. What is your occupation? I'm the manager of the defendant in this case, Mr. Matt Ongard.
I see. Now then.
Before I begin, Your Honor, I have one request.
Yes, sure. What is it?
I'm sure everyone in this room is wondering the same thing, and would love to find out more about my relationship with the victim. After all, it was the topic of a certain weekly magazine recently.
No, I have no idea what you mean. I've never even heard of Gossipland.
If the judge was ever a prosecution witness, he'd do all my work for me. Anyway, I was wondering if you could please tell us about your relation to the victim. Yes, I was seeing Mr. Carita. I was also aware of the rivalry that existed between Matt and Juan. This was a private matter between Juan and myself.
So it was a fry and bait matter. Or was that bait and fry? Reminds me of fishing.
But I did not kill him. No one is accusing you of that. I think there's someone who would beg to differ.
I think we all understand your relationship with the victim now, Miss Andrews.
Very well, then. Witness, please testify to the court about what happened when you discovered the murder that had taken place.
It was time for the show to start, so I went to get Matt from his room. After that, I went to Juan's room. And there was his dead body. I was in shock. What I saw was, naturally, the exact same scenes in the crime scene photo. I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice.
You poured yourself a glass of juice?
Yes. Sadly, I didn't remember not to touch things at the scene of the crime. And I disturbed the crime scene by moving this one thing.
And that is when the fingerprints on the wine glass were made, Your Honor.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine the witness.
Phoenix. She is one cool and collected customer, and she has the brains to match. Yes, I know. In order to catch a person like her, you have to avoid head-on confrontations. You should disrupt her pacing.
Disrupt her pacing?
She's the type of woman who is easily thrown off by things inconsistent with her thinking. So you have to attack when she least expects it. The instant you let up on your offense is the instant this trial is over. Understand? And there was his dead body. I was in shock. Hold it! You were in shock? What? Was I not supposed to be? Miss Andrews is a very calculating person. Despite how close they were, I doubt she had romantic feelings for Mr. Carita.
Anyone randomly stumbling upon a dead body would be in shock. And you can't seriously expect that a young beauty like her would not be shocked.
Somehow, I don't think beauty has anything to do with being shocked or not.
I see.
I felt as though I was about to faint, so I poured myself a glass of juice. Hold it!
Juice?
Yes, there was a bottle of tomato juice on the table, so I helped myself.
But you didn't drink any of it, did you?
Huh?
There were no lip marks left on this wine glass to suggest that anyone drank from it.
I wasn't feeling terribly great, so I set the glass down, without drinking it.
Miss Andrews, I would like to confirm with you one more time. When you discovered the dead body of Juan Carita, you were in great shock. And that's when you poured yourself the glass of juice, correct?
And what of it? My mind really was a complete blank at the time.
Your mind was a complete blank? I didn't think that was possible for you.
Aren't you rude today? I was so dazed that I made one careless mistake. That one thing.
What one thing?
Never mind. It's no big deal.
What was she starting to say just now? Miss Andrews! I'm convinced that, as you said, you made a mistake at the scene of the crime. What I really want to know is what this mistake was. Actually, so would I.
I'm sorry. It's kind of embarrassing. When I set the glass down on the dresser, I accidentally knocked the flower vase over.
Flower vase? Are you talking about the one on the floor in the crime photo? This mess of glass shards?
It was originally on top of the dresser. But when I bumped into it with my elbow, it fell onto the guitar case.
Well, why did you withhold such an important piece of information?
I'm sorry. I thought that since the crime scene was already in disarray, that people would simply assume the vase was just another part of the mess.
It looks like yet another fact has come to light here. Please add this and anything else you have to reveal to your testimony.
I'm sorry, but I have nothing more to add. I did not touch anything else. I was the one who knocked the flower vase over, where it fell into the guitar case.
Objection!
You testified that you knocked the flower vase over. Is this correct? Yes. And are you sure it fell into the guitar case? Is there some problem with what I said? It's not some problem. It's a major problem. It's true that the top of the guitar case was wet with water. However, that's exactly what is so strange. Miss Andrews! You testified that the vase fell into the guitar case. However, if that was true, the case should have gotten wet on the inside, not the outside.
That's very true.
Furthermore, there is one other strange thing about this guitar case.
What is that?
Let's take another look at the crime scene photo. The remains of the vase are scattered on the floor.
And what is wrong with that?
If the guitar case was open when the vase fell, glass shards should be inside, not outside the case. Ah!
What is your point, Wright? That the case was closed at the time the vase was knocked over? Is that all?
No! Think back to what Miss Andrews testified to. She said that other than the vase, she did not touch anything else.
Yes, that's right. She did implicitly say she did not touch the guitar case.
But this whole matter with the guitar case is a dead end. The bright red guitar was found at the studio. It has no bearing on this case at all.
That may very well be. However, the empty guitar case does seem to have no relation to this case, doesn't it?
It does seems that there is no deeper meaning to the guitar case. Well, Mr. Wright, do you think we need to hear more details about the guitar case?
The empty guitar case. I believe this is a crucial piece of the puzzle.
I can't believe anyone would reach for straws like this, but it is you.
I can't believe I'm doing this either.
All right, I'll follow along. For now. Miss Andrews, please testify to the court about the guitar case.
Yes, Your Honor. I don't remember too clearly because I was a bit dazed. I suppose I must have opened the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. It's not a big deal though, right? The case was empty after all. As for why I opened the case, even I don't know.
It looks like this really wasn't a very important point.
This wastefulness is such a familiar feeling by now that it's almost comforting.
Anyway, I'll just go ahead and start the cross-examination.
Using any way to change the topic. A convenient escape for a weak man.
I suppose I must open the guitar case after I knocked the vase over. Objection! There is no way you were the one who opened the guitar case. Why would you say that? It's elementary, my dear. Because the only fingerprints on this guitar case are those of the victim.
What is it, Miss Andrews?
You shouldn't assume that I must have left prints just because I touched the case. What do you mean? What if I were to tell you that I was wearing gloves at the time?
Gloves? But why would you be wearing gloves at the time?
It was the night of the award ceremony. So of course I dressed up for the occasion. Yes, now I remember. I'm almost sure I was wearing a pair of thin gloves.
I see. Well, Mr. Wright, it seems the witness was wearing gloves at the scene of the crime.
You were wearing gloves. Isn't that a little strange?
Why is that strange? Do you have something that would prove I was not wearing gloves at the time?
Take that! I have your proof right here. This wine glass.
The wine glass?
You left your fingerprints very clearly on this wine glass. Ah! Even if you took your gloves off when you poured yourself this glass of juice, wouldn't you think it was just a little strange that you put your gloves back on just to open the guitar case? Ah!
Oh, God. Glasses! Order! Order! Order!
Looks like you hit the nail on the head this time.
What do you mean?
I believe that guitar case plays a very important role here. But it's just an empty case. I wonder if it really was empty, though.
But the guitar! The bright red guitar was at the studio!
Phoenix, drop all of your presumptions. What was in the guitar case was not the bright red guitar.
You don't mean it was a bright white guitar?
Wait, that's not right either.
I admit it would be unnatural for someone to do that. So the witness was not wearing gloves despite the fact that on the case...
Your Honor, this is obviously the defense's usual misdirection tactic at work. Steer the court towards an unrelated topic and lull us all into his misguided objection! No, Your Honor, please recall that Miss Andrews had testified that the vase fell onto the guitar case, which means the case was closed when the crime took place. However, it is wide open in this photo of the crime scene. I am sure this guitar case is some relation to the murder. If you are so sure, right, then I'm sure you can somehow substantiate your outrageous claim, correct? Please, enlighten us as to why that guitar case has anything at all to do with this murder.
Can you do that, Mr. Wright?
Well... Let's suppose for a second that the bright red guitar was not the only thing that could have been in the case.
The bright red guitar not being the only thing? You don't mean this is just a black guitar?
Objection! So you intend to push your theory that the case was not empty? Is that it, Mr. Wright? I wouldn't say something I didn't intend to prove. Deflate that head of yours. You haven't proven anything yet. Now then, let's have it. What was inside this case at the time of the murder? Take that!
This is a photograph.
Yes. But what is important is what is in that picture, Your Honor.
In this picture?
It doesn't take a genius to see what I mean. What I am proposing is... inside the guitar case was the Nickel Samurai! The hero's very own costume!
What? Mr. Wright, explain yourself.
Right. Are you saying that the witness opened the guitar case to take out a costume? What insane point would there be to doing something like that? That insane point would be to wear the costume, of course. Miss Andrews put it on to hide her identity so she could make her escape. After all, you couldn't let anyone see you leave, could you, Miss Andrews? I refuse to accept your theory. Do you have anything to support such a preposterous idea?
Just outside the door was an investigative photographer who was starving for a big scoop. And in the end, she managed to get this shot, correct?
You mean this photo? Order! It looks like we've wandered into quite another mess again, haven't we?
Nice job, Phoenix. Well, you know my strategy. Speak first, think later.
So the real murderer was hiding inside a costume.
Well, wait 1 second, Your Honor. The Nickel Samurai's costume would have been Mr. Matt Onguard's. Why would something of the defendant's be in the victim's room? And inside the guitar case of all places?
True. That is a little baffling. Mr. Wright, the court would like to hear your thoughts.
What is this Nickel Samurai costume doing inside the guitar case?
Mr. Onguard did not take his costume off during the break period. In that case, the costume we are talking about was a spare one.
What? Then, are you saying that on the night of the murder, there were 2 Nickel Samurai costumes at the Gatewater Hotel?
Yes, that is what I'm saying.
And how do you explain the costume that was inside the guitar case?
It would mean that the victim himself had brought this spare to the ceremony on purpose.
But why? The victim, Mr. Kurita, was the jamming ninja. Why would he secretly bring the Nickel Samurai's spare costume with him? What could be the reason behind such a peculiar act?
And therein lies the sticking point.
What are you mumbling to yourself about now? Have you just been rambling all this time without any sense of inner monologue?
Huh? No, I just...
Mr. Wright, please explain yourself. Why do you think the victim had the Nickel Samurai's spared costume?
Phoenix, are you sure you can explain this one? Think carefully before you answer. And then answer with gusto. I believe in you. Alright. This is what I think. The reason the victim brought the Nickel Samurai's spare costume to the hotel was... Take that!
What is this?
On the night of the murder, after the stage show, the Nickel Samurai was going to hold a special press conference.
A press conference?
Yes, the Nickel Samurai was supposed to confess something at this conference.
I heard about this as well. For once, you're not making something up, right?
What struck me as strange was that Mr. Onguard himself said he had no idea he was supposed to be holding a press conference that night.
But how can that be?
The way I see it, that can only mean one thing. The conference was set up by none other than the victim, Mr. Juan Correa himself.
The victim?
Yes. The spare Nickel Samurai costume was prepared for that very conference. Mr. Correa was going to hold the press conference as the Nickel Samurai.
He was going to dress up as the Nickel Samurai and hold a conference? But why would the victim do such a thing?
That's something I don't quite know yet. However, what I am concerned with right now is what he intended to reveal at that conference.
The Nickel Samurai was going to confess something. And by confess, I'd wager he was going to reveal something about himself.
Which means that Juan Correa, posing as the Nickel Samurai, was going to speak about Matt Onguard.
Yes, I guess this is what it would mean.
But if that's the case, that's not a confession. That's public disclosure.
Miss Andrews,
I can see why you are pros at what you do.
pardon me?
Yes, just as you say. The press conference was set up by Juan.
Miss Andrews, please offer us an explanation for this.
I was the one he asked to help set it up. And the person who prepared the second costume for him, that was also me.
You?
Juan had bet everything on the jamming ninja this year. And if he lost the Grand Prix, he was going to make sure Matt was going down with him. That's what he thought anyway.
He was going to ruin him, huh?
It looked like somehow Juan had in his hands a secret so powerful that it would destroy Matt's acting career had it been revealed.
What?
And do you know what the secret of Mr. Oddgods is, Miss Andrews?
That's something only Juan knew. I don't know what it is.
Ah, I see.
I'm probably coming off quite suspicious to everyone. But that's to be expected. I've been trying to protect Matt, after all.
Protect Mr. Ungard?
And yet again, another strange bit of truth comes to light, it seems. Miss Andrews, if you could, please tell us the truth about your behavior.
Yes, Your Honor. I understand. From the moment I saw the crime scene, I had a feeling that Matt was the murderer. Matt had to kill Juan, no matter what. And he didn't have an alibi for what he was doing at the time of the murder. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. But I'm Matt's manager, so I felt that I had to protect him.
This does account for everything.
Well, I am the logical type. We're finally seeing her true self. She's more nervous than a scared rabbit.
If the defense can find no fault with this testimony, I am ready to make a ruling. Please keep that in mind as you cross-examine, Mr. Wright.
Looks like somehow everything has swung to the opposite end of the scale again. That just means I have to put my weight into this and turn her logic upside down. My thoughts were confirmed by the evidence, of course. The button and the knife. Hold it! You can hardly call the knife decisive evidence. The fingerprints on the knife could very well be a clever camouflage. Then, what about the button? The button? It's clear from the crime scene that the victim and his murderer fought. And during the fight, the killer ripped the button from the jamming ninja's costume.
You're talking about this button, correct?
That button was found in the pleats of Matt's hakama, isn't that correct? I would think that makes it very decisive evidence.
Duh! Looks like you were outfoxed again, Mr. Wright.
Anyway, the knife doesn't prove a thing. Please fix your testimony. I can't stand the sight of a man who can't gracefully accept his defeat. Thank goodness Mia can still look at me. With an icy stare, yes.
Miss Andrews, for Mr. Wright's sake, please add this information to your testimony.
That button was torn off of Juan during his fight with Matt. Objection! This is the victim's autopsy report. It clearly states that the cause of death was strangulation by a scarf. Strangulation? The knife stab with the victim. The knife stab to the victim was done after the victim had already died.
And what does that mean?
Let's examine the evidence. This button has the victim's blood on it, which would mean that it was ripped off of the costume
When? After the knife was stabbed into the victim.
Exactly. Which means it is impossible that this button was torn off during the victim's final struggle. Because the victim was strangled to death in that fight! That's right, Miss Andrews. There is no way this button was ripped off during the struggle. This button was consciously pulled off of the victim's already dead body!
Order! What does that mean?
What is the meaning of this, Wright? So what if the button was torn off the body after the victim had already died? What does that change?
Let me ask you one simple question, Mr. Edgeworth. Why was the button torn off? What purpose did that serve?
What purpose?
You now know this button was not torn off during the fight. So the murderer took the time and effort to purposely rip this from the victim's body. That would mean that the murderer had something in mind, wouldn't it?
Mr. Wright, does this mean you know what the murderer wanted to do with this button? What was it?
There is only one logical reason for doing something like that. It was to pin the crime on Mr. Ongard. There's no way that anyone would put a bloody button in their own pants. That's right! Mr. Ongard was set up! By the real killer, of course!
And the real murderer is? Well, Mr. Wright, who in the world is the real killer then?
Finally! I can't believe I managed to bring this trial all the way up to this point. Phoenix, you can't even let your guard down yet. Not until the very end. The real killer, the person who planned to frame Mr. Ongard, is... Take that! Miss Adrian Andrews! I choose you! You are Mr. Karita's killer!
Order! Mr. Wright, this is a very grave matter. Do you have any evidence that supports your charge?
Any evidence? All of the evidence points to Miss Andrews! How preposterous! You can't stick any of that on me! I can I? Would you care to test me? Then what about this knife? The knife was used to stab the victim after he had already been strangled to death. It was used to throw suspicion onto Mr. Ongard, naturally. The knife covered in the defendant's fingerprints could only be taken from his room. And the only one who had dinner with him and knew which knife to take was you! Then, what about the button that was found in Matt's Hakama? This button was removed from the victim's body after he had already died. The only people who could have done so were the person who found his body or the killer. However, if Mr. Ongard was the real killer, there is no way he would have put such incriminating evidence in his own Hakama. The only person who could have put this button into Mr. Ongard's Hakama is the person who went to wake him from his nap, which is you yet again, Miss Andrews.
I see. What about the empty guitar case?
That is also another piece of evidence that incriminates Miss Andrews. That costume was used to hide the real killer's identity as they fled the crime scene. Now, who could have known that there was just such a costume inside the guitar case? It could only have been the person who prepared the costume for the victim. And that person is you, Miss Adrian Andrews! No!
But Miss Andrews' fingerprints were nowhere to be found on the guitar case. And it was you who proved that she was not wearing gloves at the time.
That's right.
That's because she did not intend in leaving any prints. If anyone had found out about that she had touched the case, they would have asked her why. So to avoid leaving any prints, she used a towel or something else to open it. But a glass of tomato juice is a different story. Miss Andrews purposely left her fingerprints on the glass to show that, yes, indeed, she was the classic dazed discoverer of a dead body. And to top it all off, there's this photo. A photo of the killer as they exited the scene of the crime. No reasonable person on earth can believe this is Nickel Samurai, Mr. Ungard. He would be much too short for his own costume if it was him. Speaking of how tall people are, Miss Andrews, you're also kind of short in stature, are you not? Please, stop! Well, how about it, Miss Andrews? I've got her this time.
Miss Andrews?
I refuse to testify. What was that? There's a law. It says I can't be forced to testify about something if it can incriminate me.
Well, yes. You are absolutely correct, Miss Andrews. Law does provide us with a way to avoid self-incrimination by allowing a witness to not testify if the testimony can cause damage to themselves.
What? Pleading the fifth is not something most people would think to do on the spot. Actually, thinking back to yesterday in Mr. Ungard's room. Adrian Andrews. Yes? Think hard about what we just discussed. Understood? All right. That's it. That's when Francisca planted this idea into her head. She must have told Miss Andrews to not testify if things look bad. You did a good job proving everything up to this point, Phoenix. But there's still one thing you haven't done. Something I haven't done?
What's wrong, Wright? Are you finished already? Run out of evidence?
What is so humorous, Mr. Edgeworth?
I'm sure you realize this is as well, Your Honor. But everything the good lawyer here has proven up to this point is meaningless.
What?
Everything you have proven is circumstantial.
Circumstantial?
Yes, circumstantial. You have yet to provide a single piece of definitive proof. Proof that Miss Andrews did in fact harbor a wish to murder Mr. Carita.
Miss Andrews, did you want to kill Mr. Carita?
I believe this may lead to me incriminating myself, so I will abstain from answering.
But, Miss Andrews, if you do that, it would be the same as admitting your guilt, don't you think?
Maybe so, or maybe not. There is nothing to prove it either way. Besides, you don't even know what crime I would be guilty of due to my silence. No! She's taking that defiant attitude again! Mia, what should we do? Somehow, we've landed in the worst possible situation.
I think we have reached a certain conclusion at this point in time. Miss Adrian Andrews has refused to testify. And the defense's theory that she is the actual murder has not been fully substantiated with solid definitive proof.
But that's not true!
In this situation, there is only one thing this court can do, and that is to declare a recess.
process.
I request that both the prosecution and the defense look further into this matter, and at tomorrow's trial...
Tomorrow? We don't have it tomorrow! If we don't get a not guilty verdict today, then... Please, wait, Your Honor! That's not necessary! The trial! Please continue the trial!
What are you sweating for? Your client is getting one more day to live, isn't he?
That's not it! This isn't about that! Edgeworth! I know you know who the real killer is! Please! Let the trial continue! If I don't get the verdict, then Maya...
But it's impossible to continue as long as the witness refuses to testify. Now then, this court is...
It is not impossible for this trial to continue.
Mr. Edgeworth, what are you...
It's true Miss Andrews holds the right against self-incrimination. However, if the topic of conversation was something unrelated to whatever she may be guilty of, then she has no right to withhold testimony.
Yes, that is very true, but...
Actually, there is one little thing that I'm curious about. Miss Andrews, when you found the victim's dead body, you poured yourself a glass of juice.
Yeah. And?
I can't help but think how unnatural that is. Usually when one finds a body, they are shaken up, not stirring a glass of juice.
So my actions were unusual? But I've already...
Before you speak, I want to state that if you have a reason behind your actions, I would like you to testify to that effect.
Testify?
Your Honor, I would like to request that the witness testify again as to what happened when she first discovered the victim's body. Whatever we find out in this testimony should in no way implicate the witness.
I don't know what it is about Edgeworth today, but I can't get a good read off of him. Is he friend or foe? I just don't know.
The court acknowledges the prosecution's request. Miss Andrews, if you please.
That glass of juice, I didn't really pour it for myself. I was surprised when I walked into the room and saw it in that messy state. And Quan, he was sitting slumped over and tired looking in the corner. When I saw him sitting like that, the thought that he was dead didn't cross my mind. To be honest, I thought he just fainted or something, so I went to pour him some juice. When I realized that he was dead, that's when I knocked the flower vase over.
So you poured that glass of juice for the victim. Why didn't you say so in your earlier testimony?
I didn't think I needed to include something so trivial. Phoenix, please be careful here. If you can't find anything wrong with his testimony, then there's nothing left.
I know.
Edgeworth, what the heck is going on in that brain of yours?
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
Objection! So, you honestly didn't think he was dead when you found him?
No, not at all.
Even though this is what you saw when you discovered the body? Ah!
What is the meaning of this?
Isn't it obvious, Your Honor? There is a knife sticking out of Mr. Carita's chest. Anyone who saw this scene would have immediately thought that here was a dead man.
Well, you see...
I doubt a single person in the world will mistake this for someone who fainted. And then so nonchalantly go pour something to drink.
Your point is...
Miss Andrews,
Your testimony just now, it was all one giant lie. And your lie has proven one thing very clearly. That you are the real killer! No!
It looks like the defense has somehow brought the ugly truth to light. The defendant, Mr. Matt Ungard, is not guilty after all.
That's impossible! You're wrong!
Miss Andrews? Try to have some composure.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me, I tell you. It was Matt. I swear it. He's the one who killed Juan. But you were the one who refused to testify. And your reason for not doing so was that you might end up incriminating yourself. That's because...
Miss Andrews, I will give you one last chance. What exactly are you hiding that may incriminate you?
I refuse to testify.
There's no need for this court to continue any further. Mr. Matt Ungard's innocence has been clearly demonstrated.
Is it over? Have we found the truth at last? What's wrong, Phoenix? Usually the real killer confesses his or her guilt. And now that I think about it, this is the first time someone hasn't.
Now then, I would like to hand down my verdict for Mr. Matt Ungard. Objection!
Your Honor, the prosecution feels that it would be premature to pass down a verdict at this time.
What?
The reason is quite simple. This witness has yet to speak the absolute real truth.
The absolute real truth? What are you...
Witness, don't you understand yet?
Huh?
I don't know who planted this silly idea in your head, but as long as you protect yourself through your silence, Matt Ungard will go free, and in his place, you will become the guilty party.
That's a lie! I don't believe you!
What?
I was told if I spoke, then it'd be all over, and Matt would never be declared guilty. What in the world is she talking about? Has she lost it? I can't speak about it. I'm too scared. It's Franziska von Karma. Huh? Don't you remember, Phoenix? Miss Andrews lives by gripping tightly onto the words of another. Because she doesn't have the strength to believe in herself. And right now, Miss Andrews is... Yesterday, she was tossed a lifesaver by Miss von Karma. Don't say a word, no matter what happens. If you do, Matt Ungard will be acquitted. Miss Andrews undyingly believes in those words right now, and is clinging to them. Then what should we do? This is the first time I've ever come across anything like this. Miss Andrews has to be the killer, right? All we have to do now is get our not guilty. That is my only priority. It wasn't me. I'm begging you. Please believe me. I didn't kill Juan. Help. Please. Someone help me.
Mr. Wright,
Yes, Your Honor.
the court cannot continue on like this. Therefore, I'd like to hear what you intend to do.
What I intend to do? What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say?
Right. I suggest you think very carefully about this. Think about what this witness did and what she did not do. And think about who is the real mastermind behind this crime.
Who's the real mastermind? Isn't that obvious? There's no one else it could be except the woman crying over there. Right?
Come now. What will you do? What kind of man are you, Mr. Phoenix Wright?
I have to win a complete acquittal today. There's no way around that. But I can't bring myself to do it like this. Not when she's making a face like that. Miss Andrews, I would like to know what you're really hiding.
Mr. Wright, are you sure you know what you're doing?
Sure. Mr. Arngard would get an acquittal, but in his place, you would be found guilty. Is this how you really want this trial to end? Be quiet. How dare you? You're trying to trick me.
That's enough. I commend you for trying, Mr. Edgeworth. However, it's clear that the defense's theory is the truth.
You're wrong.
What a shame. I had hoped things wouldn't come to this. However,
What is it, Mr. Edgeworth?
Miss Andrews, since you absolutely refuse to testify, it falls on my shoulders to disclose this to the court.
Stop!
Mr. Edgeworth?
This witness, how should I put this? She has an illness.
What?
And because of this illness, she has tried to commit suicide in the past.
Stop! Please stop!
No matter how much you want to hide it, it's no use. I have the evidence right here.
That's the second part of the suicide report! The attempted suicide report!
What will you do now, witness? You know what I am about to do, don't you? I will now reveal to the court the true nature of this pitiful woman known as Adrian Andrews.
The secret of her dependent nature! Having other people know about it scares her more than anything else in the world! Please stop! I beg you! If people find out, I'll...
If you're going to say you would choose death, that is of no concern to me.
Edgeworth! How can you be so cold?
However, before you die, I will pull the truth from your still breathing lips. No matter what I have to do. So, will you tell the court yourself or shall I? Either is fine with me.
I'll talk. Please, help me. Nothing matters anymore. When I first saw him, I really thought he'd fainted. Honest. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. Once I made sure there was no ring in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience. And that's why I ended up using the Nickel Samurai costume.
Stab the body? With a knife? But why would you do that?
Isn't it obvious? To pin the blame on a certain person. A certain cowardly man!
What do you mean by all of this?
It might take this court a little while to understand, but this is the truth.
The real killer is Matt! That scumbag of a man! I'll never forgive him! He's trying to escape his guilt again! Just like last time! Last time?
So, Miss Andrews stabbed the victim, Juan Carita, in the chest with the knife. However, She didn't do it with murder in mind. She did it with the intent of framing Matt Engard for the murder. And this is her crime.
Well, what? How is this possible? I mean, wasn't Miss Andrews supposed to be the real murderer?
Mr. Wright, please get over your shock and commence the cross-examination.
When I first saw him, I really thought he had fainted. Honest. But you could tell from the state the room was in that there must have been a fight. Are you telling the truth when you say that you did not know he was dead? He had a scarf tied around his neck. But that scarf is a part of the jamming ninja's costume, so I didn't think anything about it was strange. His head was also tilted down a bit, so I couldn't see his face that well. That's why I thought I'd wake him up and went to pour the juice. When I realized he was dead, that was when I formulated my plan. What is this plan you had? I knew right away the murderer was Matt. I knew because Juan, he was going to expose Matt's weak point to the world. So Matt did this to stop Juan and silence him for good. That's when I thought I should forge some evidence and pin this crime on Matt.
So the forged pieces of evidence were the knife and the button.
First thing that came to mind was to plant the knife. Once I made sure there was no one in the hallway, I made a dash back to Matt's room. That was so you could get the knife, correct? The knife Matt used at dinner had his fingerprints all over it. I thought that if I used that, then the police would certainly turn their eyes towards him. Matt was napping with his costume on at the time. I slipped in, took the knife, and returned to the scene of the crime. And then, I stabbed Juan's dead body with a knife and ripped off the button. So you're the one that stabbed the victim with that knife. It gives me goosebumps to think about it now. What a horrible thing I did. But at the time, I couldn't control my own body. It moved on its own. Then, when I stabbed Juan's dead body, I suddenly realized something. If I used the button somehow, I could make Matt look even more suspect.
So you thought to rip one of the buttons off and then plant it in Mr. Engard's Hakama?
Yes, that's what I had planned to do. Things never go that smoothly, do they? Just when I finished and was returning to Matt's room, I had a bit of an inconvenience.
An inconvenience?
There was a woman with a camera at the ready, loitering in the hallway.
I'm willing to bet my spikes it was Lada.
There was also a woman with a ray gun at the ready, pacing back and forth.
That's Miss Obag for you.
I'd already been caught and made into a big scoop for a certain weekly tabloid once. So I couldn't very well go out looking like myself and get caught again. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
I don't want to concede, but this testimony, it rings of the truth.
I'm sorry, Phoenix. No, please, don't apologize to me. We were both taken by surprise. Still, I'm sorry. And that's why I ended up using the nickel samurai costume.
You were the one who prepared that costume, weren't you?
Yes, I took it from Global Studios. I also put it into Juan's guitar case the day before the award ceremony.
You did this in preparation for the press conference, correct?
Yes. Juan wanted to wear that costume and hold a press conference in it. He was going to disclose Matt's big secret there.
And what is this secret?
That, I don't know. Anyway, I thought that if I were to leave Juan's room in the nickel samurai costume, that people would think that Matt was the real mirror. I was very careful not to leave any fingerprints when I opened the guitar case. I absolutely did not want anyone to know about the costume.
I think we've heard enough. So after that, you went back to Mr. Argod's room and planted the button?
Into Matt's Akama? Yes. After that, I folded up the costume I was wearing and put it into a bag. Then I snuck it out of the hotel and got rid of it.
My word. What does all this mean?
Mr. Edgeworth, is it? The real criminal is Matt on guard. Yesterday, that woman prosecutor sat me down for a talk. Francisca, huh? She said that I should under no circumstances confess to what I had done. And if I just kept quiet, then Matt would be found guilty for sure. I had no choice but to believe in her words.
What this witness has done is clearly unlawful. However, as long as her testimony stands, we can be certain she is not the real killer.
Wait! Your Honor! The fence still...
Right. It's pointless. At this point in time, it is not possible to indict Miss Andrews on anything.
Yes, exactly. There isn't a single piece of evidence that points to her as the murderer. The cross-examination of this witness is over, and so is today's trial. You couldn't establish that witness was the culprit. Please let it go, Mr. Wright.
But...
Mr. Edgeworth, please place Miss Andrews under arrest for further questioning.
Understood, Your Honor. The prosecution will arrange for her detention immediately.
That is all. Court is adjourned for today.
Today's trial. It's over. And I didn't win an acquittal.
Witness, would you mind if I asked you something?
Huh? Edgeworth? What is it?
Before you leave court today, I wondered if I might look at one thing. The card in your hand. It's had my interest for quite some time now. What exactly is it?
Oh, this? Mr. Wright also asked about this. Although I didn't remember at the time you asked me about it, Mr. Wright. I remember just now. I found this in the room on that day.
The room? That day?
Yes. I found this card when I discovered Tuan's body. It was lying there right next to him.
You found that card? Next to the victim's body?
I suppose I must have unconsciously slipped it into my pocket. But it's not as if this card has any relevance to Juan's murder, right? Yeah, I guess not. But it's still a strange card if you ask me. But as far as a clue to this case, I don't see why...
Witness! That card! Give it to me! Hurry!
Edgeworth?
Do you have any idea what you have stupidly yet inadvertently done? This... I can't believe you hid this from me all this time!
I didn't mean to! What is this all about? I've never seen Edgeworth so emotional before! That card! What in the world is it? And what does it mean?
Well, we'll find out in the next episode! Hello guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Also, you can check out my social media platforms, which are right below my screen. Please check us out and support the show that way. Don't forget, you can watch the action all live on twitch.tv/Stu Waters, where all the action is live with no breaks and no edits. Hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye.